Within the guise of its body and the fact that it's not really a government. See, a government is nothing more than an empty building that collectively comes in and says this is the rule that everyone's going to follow. Masonry is down at the local level, so it doesn't matter if you're in my small town or you're in...
It seems like function as a society, but that working force is also not only the heart and blood, but they're not actually acting in a way that, I mean, if you think about, say, 40% of all workers throughout California or the United States stopped going to work, the entire system would collapse.
Yeah,
if you don't have truckers that are pumping, food in and out of towns, if you don't have people that are maintaining bridges, if you don't have people maintaining power.
Well, and that's where the local Masons came into aspect in regards to the early settlements of America.
What's a Mason?
Well,
what do you mean Mason?
So, what I mean by Mason is like, say for instance, a good way to have an introduction is like the 1800s. You have, your little western small towns, wagons and horses and stuff, and you don't really have roads, you don't really have homes. You have people that are coming in because they're mining or exploring or, just something new. But then all of a sudden you have a collective of people. In order to get these things done that you're talking about without a government, for instance, without Caltrans coming in and building a road, you had a group of men who would get together and they would say, okay, this is what we need done. We need this building resurrected. We need this land excavated. And so they were just the like-minded men that would get together and be like, this is what our town needs. So the only way it's going to get done is by putting our own hands into it and making it happen. And that's where we had a lot of Masonic orders, is taking, good men and making them better men, but allowing them to have community things like that. We can't always rely on some government aid. In those times, they were non-existent, but we can't allow some government aid to come in and say, we are the ones that only have the means to build a road, when really the town and the people within that town have the means of building that road if they chose to.
Well, it seems awesome that the Masons did that, back in the day when we first started growing, but, then what happened? I mean,
Well, just like modern growth, it's gotten integrated over time. I mean, the Masons are still doing philanthropistic work, but it's under the guise of nonprofits. When the nonprofit era came around, I think that really changed it up a little bit, because you no longer have good men working for their communities anymore. You have good men working for nonprofit corporations. I mean, that's really what they've came down to. They've transformed into corporations now under the guise of nonprofit, which is just as bad as a government, in my opinion.
It seems like Masonry's then been corrupted, at least in recent times. That's kind of disheartening.
But it has, within the guise of its body and the fact that it's not really a government. See, a government is nothing more than an empty building that collectively comes in and says this is the rule that everyone's going to follow. Masonry is down at the local level, so it doesn't matter if you're in my small town or you're in...
It seems like the cattle's coming in.
That's a ranch truck right across the creek.
The rancher's getting his cattle ready and feeding them.
That's the beauty of, living in more rural areas, that
we find beauty in that, watching the rancher do his job. Without him, we wouldn't eat well. We'd eat rice.
That man's the one that actually
helps. Like China.
That's the man that helps feed.
Or we'd eat beans like South America.
Families.
Right. Well, and that's a good example right there, actually. So say a community back in the 1800s was, didn't have that influx of meat coming in that year, right? But a couple of Masons happened to be farmers. So they may just, out of the kindness of their heart, donate some meat to the Masonic Lodge, and then the Masonic Lodge would take that and, give it back to the community in a way and distribute it amongst everybody. as a collective thing. They were the boots on the grounds that went to the streets and asked for, that collective small, hey, do you just have something small? Do you just have something small? Because we're going to take all these small things, and we're going to make it into this really big thing. And we're going to make it a public thing. So it's all transparent, and this is what's happening for everybody.
Seems like then those were great men. And it's kind of fallen away as the more communistic style society that we embrace is abound.
They're out there, though. I mean,